Hello! Today I'm going to show you a bunch of different watercolor techniques so that you can put them in paintings and have fun with them. And here's a finished demo. I'm going to use the Koi 2 watercolors just because they're nice and vibrant. I also like these for, starting out student grade stuff. It has a lovely mixing palette here. And all you got to do to clean them up is just take a little bit of water on your brush, clean it out, and the color comes back if they get mixed. So that's nice too. All right, but I feel like these go a little quicker. I just picked a few colors. I believe this is the carmine red, the deep yellow. I have Verdian green and the Prussian blue are the ones that are in here, just to give some to play with. I picked out some primary colors. And the first thing I'm gonna do is do a flat wash, which is essentially where you take some water, add a touch of color so you can see it, and just wet the page. And then you take some color, make sure I get enough water on my brush so that it pulls up the color. And then, because the page is nice and wet, I get a really nice, even, except for that piece of crud or scratch on my paper, a really nice, even color. So that's a flat wash. And then if I wanted to blend that into another color, I can on that same wet area. I can add another color and then gently lighten my pressure as they come together. And that's called a color blend as they go together. And when you have enough water on here, that color blend, I can also do something fun, like take a little bit of salt and sprinkle it. Oh, look at that. And when you sprinkle the salt, it actually pulls the color into the salt, and you can't touch it till it's dry. But then when you're all done, you get an effect somewhat like this one here, where you get this an interesting little, it's great for making like a sandy texture or maybe a tree or something, so we'll leave that until it dries. I can also do what I mentioned but didn't quite show you was a graded wash. So a graded wash, anytime you have wash in the name, you want to use a big wide brush. Big fluffy brushes are nice too. And wet your paper. I'm going to take some color, get a good amount on there, start on one side, look at how it just goes, kind of expands, that's nice. And then maybe I'll add a little more water to my brush, and then I lighten it, add a little more water to my brush. I'll bring this over so you can see it. And basically blend water into the color so you get a gradation or a graded wash, like so. One of the things you want to be careful with watercolor is to kind of let it do its own work. Don't try and overdo it. Let it sort of blend and do its own thing. Now let's just say I wanted a crisper edge and not this flowy edge. I can do things like I can add colors with something waxy or oily. This is an oil pastel. I could take, this is painter's tape. I could take painter's tape and stick it down, and this will leave my paper nice and white, because in watercolor, the white is actually the white of the page. I could take Frisket, masking fluid, or mask it. Rubber cement works, all these things will kind of cover it, and then you can peel it off or rub it away after. So this is interesting. This red and green is making this lovely purple color. One of the great things about watercolors is you can mix and get tons of new colors. I like to try and not put anything too much straight color onto my page. Ooh, I like that kind of cool purpley gray I'm getting. So you can see where the oil pastel is, or crayon or colored pencil would all do this. And I can even put more on there just to bring it out a little bit. It'll bleed through kind of in a texture, and then hopefully this rest of it will be dry when we're done, and I can get some other stuff, some other colors here. Come on, give me some color. There we go. Kind of blend that in there, and you'll see how the white really pops out later and gives me a nice crisp edge. So these are called resists. There I can add the white there and have those things show through. What else? I could make another flat wash area. I didn't quite get it all wet first. I still had a lot of paint on my brush. A lot of green this time. I can take a plastic wrapper, saran wrap, and press it in. And you can see how that pools the paint. Works lovely for like rocks in a stream. You can kind of move it around, push that down. And again, let it dry, and then pick it up, and you'll get a look something like this, where you have different pieces coming through. I can create effects, like I mentioned, this is nice for a tree, but let's just say I want a little bit shadow in that tree. Maybe I'll go some purpley. So I have a little bit smaller brush now, get some nice color on there. And then to tap it, I can get these interesting splatter marks. And notice how, because it's still wet, it sort of floats into it. I can do that, or I can do it on a dry surface and keep the mark. If I go like this, it kind of shoots out over there. So just by tapping your brush, you get a nicer effect that way. I can take a little bit of paint and mix it with water. This is just watercolor, the liquid watercolor put in there, and some green. And I can take it and shoot it across and get a look like that. I can drop it onto the page kind of like this and get some different looks. So you can get some interesting effects that way. So I have a spray bottle, I have resist, I have saran wrap, I got salt. What am I forgetting? Ooh, these are all different things I've shown you where the paper is wet to give you this different effects. You can also use dry brush, which is kind of, you know, not the best name for it because it's really dry paper and my brush is wet, but that's what it's called. I didn't make it up, I just teach it. And then I get these little edges. I can kind of blend things. I can add different textures to it. I can do an outline, very specific shape, or outline that way, color it in. So dry brush is what gives me those nice clean edges. Now some of the rules, I know it's art and you should be able to play however you want, but ways people choose to work with, see how now it's blending, so it's different, that's considered wet into wet. These are techniques to play with. Rules with watercolor are ways to use them so they turn out the way people tend to think of how they would work. My thought is they're intended to be transparent. And generally as you work with them, you want to work light to dark, because I can cover this up, but I can't cover that piece up, that little darker section with anything. So if I want it to be darker, I need to put that on top. I'm not going to be able to go into it. Now let's just say I messed up. Oh no, I don't want it that dark. I can wet my brush, clean it up. So I want it to be nice and clean now. Take a little bit of water. Maybe I'll go over here. That may not work. The paper is a little stained right there. I can lift, and one of the things that can be nice about, nope, not that one. This isn't my favorite watercolor paper. It kind of grabs the color and doesn't let go. But I can do some things where I can pick up some of the color if I have a paper towel or something like that. So it's not completely erasable, but I can adjust. Ooh, look at how nice it's blending. That's kind of a fun thing with watercolor. So I can do things like that. I can do wet into wet. I can do dry brush and let it blend and move. And then when it's all dry, or dry-ish, this is pretty early. I wouldn't usually go this early. I can get a nice wax resist there. This looks like it's not, it's kinda, that's a little early too, but you can kind of see all the different effects. So as I have over here, there's a lot of different techniques that you can play with that are gonna give you lots of options. So maybe you have like water or a stream or details like let it dry, put details on top, let the white stand out, play, let it be gestural and fun. That is my advice. Thank you all.